Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Podcast here on my YouTube channel. My name, of course, is John Campea, and I am delighted to be your host today. This is the show every day that we talk about all the things that we love the most, the things going on in entertainment, in movies, sometimes in television, whatever. And I take all the topics, or most of the topics, I should say, from you guys. Now, here's how today's going to go. I got a couple of items in the world of movie news and entertainment news going on that I want to talk about. But then after that, we get on to the main part of the show, which is taking the questions and comments and topics that you guys send in to me. Now, how do you get a question or topic on the John Campea Podcast? It's simple. Just email me anytime at the John Campea Podcast at gmail.com. That's the John Campea Podcast at gmail.com. Just send on in a question anytime you like. Maybe you'll see it on here. A couple of important notes, though. If you send in a question, keep it to 90 words or less, or else it's too long for me to read, and it's just too big of a question for me to even fit on the screen. And also, remember, I can't get to every question, but I will get to as many as I possibly can. All right, so once I'm done with those, I'm going to go over to our live chat board and take some questions that people in the live chat board are throwing in and asking. That'll come at the end of the show. So for now, let's move on to topic number one. And topic number one is this. We've known for a while now that Martin Scorsese is working with Warner Brothers in producing a brand new Joker movie. Now, apparently the movie would be directed by Todd Phillips, and he just did a great job on that movie War Dogs. And they've got a screenwriter on, and that was the report. That's what everything was talking about. The trade seemed pretty confident about it. Some people seem to doubt it. Well, now, one of the key reporters for Variety is letting us know, he jumped on Twitter last night to let us know that it looks like the first script for the Joker movie, this standalone Joker movie, is going to be turned in next week. Like the studio is getting their hands on the script next week. And he also said that it looks like things are on track to fast track this whole thing and to get it in front of cameras and shooting as early as 2018. So just next year, coming up. And if like any time now, they could be shooting this thing. Now, to remind everybody my thought on this, I know there are a lot of people who do not like this idea of a brand new Joker movie that sits outside of the DCEU. Like this is a different Joker, a different movie, its own isolated one-shot movie. And it's not Jared Leto's Joker. This Joker movie would reportedly be happening in the early 1980s when Jared Leto's Joker would be like 7 or something like that. So it's a totally different Joker. It's not in the DCEU. It's totally different. And I personally love the idea. I love the idea. Comic books for a long time have been a great medium for telling quick one-shot stories that are not connected to the rest of canon. And some of the best comic book stories we've ever gotten have come out of those one-shot standalone stories. Why is it such a dirty word now? Why is it such a crime now to have a really good one-shot movie? That's the way movies are supposed to be, normally. Yeah, it's cool that we've got these cinematic universes right now. And I love me the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love me the DCEU. You know, I appreciate cinematic universes where everything's connected and everything's tied together. I get that. But the best movies of all time are, generally speaking, one-shot movies. So what's wrong with doing some one-shot movies with the medium, comic books, that has practically perfected the art of one-shot Elseworld kind of outside of canon, outside of their continuity movies? What's the problem with that? I think it's a great idea. And there are a whole bunch of people who are really upset about it. It's like, come on, not every bloody frickin' movie has to be tied into your precious MCU or tied into the precious DCEU. They're fine. Not everything has to be connected. Give us some glorious one-shot stories, because there are so many rich stories that you can tell by taking the handcuffs off of filmmakers and saying, okay, you know what? Make the best Joker movie you can and don't worry about making sure all the details tie into the DCEU, because you're not going to be in the DCEU. I think that's wonderful. Especially when you're getting some really talented filmmakers, including one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, Martin Scorsese, coming on to produce the thing and saying that they're going to make it very much like Taxi Driver. Dirty, visceral, gritty. I mean, that's great news. Anyway, we've talked about that before. So on this whole thing about them turning in the script next week. Now, I've already heard some people complaining a little bit and expressing some concerns that, oh my gosh, they're really rushing this. That's not a good sign. They're rushing this thing. They've already got a script coming in. Well, yes and no. I mean, on the one hand, I know it appears and it can look like they're rushing it, but the reality is it's been a while since we heard this announcement that they're working on making the Scorsese-produced Joker movie. It's been a while. Let's also remember that Darren Aronofsky said he wrote the script for Mother, at least the first turning of the script, in 5 days. Now, I know a lot of people saying, yeah, but John, Mother has an F cinema score. Yeah, I understand that. I know that too. But Joss Whedon, famously, I go back to this one too. Cabin in the Woods. Everybody likes Cabin in the Woods. Joss Whedon says he wrote the first draft of that script in a weekend. In a weekend, he wrote that script. So it's been quite a while. I mean, you can write a script, especially a first draft of a script, in 4 weeks. You can do that if you're a professional screenwriter. But let's also keep this in mind. Just because we heard about Martin Scorsese producing, Todd Phillips directing a standalone Joker movie outside of the DCU, just because we heard about that, I can't remember how long ago it was. 3 weeks ago? For argument's sake, I'll say 3 weeks ago that happened. That doesn't mean that's when they actually started. Remember, by the time they announced that Ben Affleck was going to be Batman, they had already chosen Ben Affleck to be Batman months earlier. I mean, Ben Affleck confirmed that. They had signed him actually months earlier than when they finally actually announced it. And just because a reporter at the Hollywood Reporter found out about this Joker movie and reported it 3 weeks ago, that doesn't mean it's only been in process for 3 weeks. I have a feeling this is actually probably, again, I'm just saying I've got a feeling about this. I got a feeling this project has probably been in process for like 3 months. Again, could be wrong about that, but I've just always had the sense that this is a project that has been on track for months and months and months and months. So it could very well be that this is a script that's been developed and worked on for 2.5, 3 months already. So let's not get too worried about the notion of they're rushing it when the reality is they could have already been working on this for a long time. We simply don't know. Bottom line here is this, though. I still love this idea. I love the idea of a standalone Joker movie free from the DCU telling one-shot great stories. Tell us some one-shot great stories. That's what the best movies usually are. So I'm all for it. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that Warner Brothers, while everybody is becoming completely addicted to their shared cinematic universe, whether it's Universal with their monsters, or whether it's King Kong and Godzilla, or whether it's a Conjuring, or whether it's the MCU, or whether it's the DCU, okay, that's fine. While everybody's getting completely addicted and doing nothing but these shared universe films, I applaud Warner Brothers for taking a shot at doing something a little bit different than what everybody's doing right now. Make a one-shot standalone movie. I think it's a great idea. Anyway, but I know some of you guys have a lot of different thoughts about that. Jump into the comment section and leave your thoughts. Just because I think that way doesn't mean it's right. I mean, maybe you have a totally different point of view. Jump into the comment section and let me know. All right, this next topic here. Last night, I finally got around to going out and seeing Battle of the Sexes, the brand new Steve Carell, Emma Stone movie. Now, I am going to be giving my full review of Battle of the Sexes a little bit later this afternoon. So look for that review to come up a little bit later. I'll say this about it though. The marketing makes it seem like it's about Bobby Riggs and it's about Billie Jean King and it stars Steve Carell and Emma Stone, or Emma Stone and Steve Carell, whichever way you want to say it. The reality is this is not a Bobby Riggs, Billie Jean King movie. This is a Billie Jean King movie. With Bobby Riggs playing a prominent role, yes, but this is a Billie Jean King movie. And the star of the film is Emma Stone. That's all I'll say about the movie itself. But I wanted to talk about Emma Stone for a second, having just watched her in Battle of the Sexes. I've always liked Emma Stone. I've always thought she was quite nice. I actually met her ages ago when nobody knew what her name was. I met her and I clearly didn't know she was going to become Emma Stone. I met this young girl, Emma Stone, on set of The Rocker, the Rainn Wilson movie. And I met her on set there and she was just really sweet, fun, spunky little young girl at the time. It felt like, I mean, she was an adult, yes, but she was a lot younger. And, you know, I liked her. And then, you know, she popped up in a number of movies and I always liked her in them. And then, of course, 10 years ago, she appeared in Superbad and everybody liked her in that. And then she's in a number of other big movies, and she's Gwen Stacy and blah, blah, blah. And everybody respects her. It's like, yeah, she's really good. This Emma Stone girl is really good. And then it happens. She appears in La La Land in a role that Emma Watson was apparently supposed to play. And then Emma Watson dropped out to do Beauty and the Beast. So Emma Stone went in. It was destiny. Takes over the role in La La Land. And she blows everybody's socks off, and she wins, as you can see right here, she wins an Academy Award for Best Actress. She is the reigning, defending, undisputed champion of the world. She is the current reigning Best Actress of the Academy Awards. Now, as much as everybody likes Emma Stone, and everybody sees she's clearly got a lot of talent, I think a lot of people, including myself a little bit, I suspected this a little bit, always knew she was good, but kind of thought maybe that this whole La La Land thing was just the perfect storm of luck, that she just happened to be the perfect person to play this perfect role in this movie that was destined to be considered the best by many people, considered to be the best movie of the year. And it was a great role, and it was a perfect storm of circumstances. And it was a little bit of she lucked out a little bit to get that role at the right time, and she won the Academy Award. Not that she got lucky to win the Academy Award. She deserved it. She absolutely did. But I'm saying that it was the circumstances. A lot of people suspect it was all just the right circumstances that lined up for her to be in the right spot at the right time to play that role, and she got an Academy Award. And good for her. No one will ever take that away from her. But don't expect to see her win more. You know, she's great. We love her, but don't expect her to win more. I'll admit, I had a little bit of that way of thinking because I've always liked her very much and think she's great. Oh, her in Crazy Stupid Love, also with Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling. If you have not seen Crazy Stupid Love with Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, Julianne Moore, Steve Carell, go see it. Pick it up. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I love that film. Anyway, but then last night I go see Battle of the Sexes, and I'm going to tell you right now, any percentage of my brain, even if it was only like 10%, that thought maybe Emma winning that Academy Award last year was just a little bit of luck with all the circumstances lining up. That is gone. She's remarkable in this movie. Again, I'll go more into reviewing the movie a little bit later this afternoon. She is stunningly good in this movie. Like, world-class good. Like, not only am I sitting back here now as a film fan and saying, no, that La La Land thing, there was no fluke. There was no fluke in her La La Land win. And as a matter of fact, I'm ready to say she is, and I don't like to use the word a lot, much like the NFL, the term elite quarterback is thrown around too much. I think elite means like your top three. I'll say this. I now firmly believe Emma Stone is one of the elite actresses in Hollywood. And by elite, I don't mean top 20 best actresses. I don't mean top 15. I don't mean top 10. I mean easily top 5, maybe top 3. I'll go so far as to say maybe top 3. Considering my back-to-back viewings of her have been in La La Land, which we all acknowledge she just rocked the hell out of that thing and won the Academy Award, obviously. But now seeing her in Battle of the Sexes, playing this character with great range of joy and excitement and pain and sorrow and determination and grit and frailty all at the same time. I'm telling you, if the Academy Awards were tomorrow, a couple things I'll tell you that would happen. Number 1, Logan should win Best Picture. Number 2, Emma Stone should easily win Best Lead Actress. She's that good. And I have thrown away that perception of her that she's just really good and we love seeing her because she's so quirky and great, but she's not like elite. No, get rid of that thinking. She is elite. Absolutely elite. Now, I'm not saying Battle of the Sexes is going to go on to win Best Picture of the Year or anything. Again, I'm saving that for my review. But I am just floored. If you are not already one of the people who 100% dead serious take Emma Stone, like take her dead serious as one of the elite, you will. You will after seeing Battle of the Sexes. I thought she was just absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, okay, let's move on from that to the next topic. And of course, Kingsman The Golden Circle came out. Look at me. I bet you guys didn't know I was in Kingsman The Golden Circle. I play Mark Strong's little brother. I play Mark Strong's younger brother. No, I'm just kidding. That's just my thumbnail for my review. Anyway, so Kingsman The Golden Circle is out. One of the most anticipated. You take away Star Wars and comic book movies, One of the most anticipated movies of the year absolutely is Kingsman The Golden Circle, because we all remember how good the first one was. And you know from my review, if you saw my review, that I was disappointed by the film. I'm not saying it's a bad film, but they do so many things that kind of crap on what made the first one good. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. I just couldn't get over my disappointment because I did have such high expectations, because I did love the first one so much. And in my opinion, this movie can't hold the first Kingsman's shoes. I think there's a lot of people who are going to enjoy it because there's a lot in the movie to just pure enjoy. There is a lot in there to enjoy, but it's just nowhere near as good as the first one. Now, I made that review not reading any other reviews because, there was an embargo and everything. I made my review not really having talked to anybody else except for maybe one or two people about the movie. I didn't know what other people were going to think about the movie. And sure enough, now the movie's been released, the embargo's lifted, all that kind of stuff. And the general consensus of Kingsman The Golden Circle is meh. That seems to be the general consensus. Meh, yeah, it's okay. And right now, as of the recording, last time I checked, Kingsman The Golden Circle had a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, whereas the first Kingsman, the critics seemed to love it. I know it got close to 80%, the first Kingsman. So no excuse of, critics don't just like this kind of movie. No. They loved the first Kingsman. It got nearly an 80%. The critics loved the first Kingsman. But also a lot of the people I talked to, friends of mine who went to go see the film last night because it opened in theaters last night, came back and said, yeah, it's okay. And that's really unfortunate because I think Kingsman could have been one of the truly great franchises that's not comic book related and that's not related to Star Wars. It could have been one of the truly great franchises because that first one is so freaking awesome. But it is curious now because I know I didn't love it and I didn't know if I'd be the only one, but it seems like there's a lot of people out there that don't love this movie. You may love it, and that's totally fine because all film is subjective. Even if everybody else on the planet hates the movie, that doesn't mean you're going to hate the movie. You might like it. And you might really enjoy Kingsman. But the general consensus I've been feeling from people, and I thought this was noteworthy, has been meh, it's okay. And it is, which is too bad too, because the movie starts off so great. Kingsman, The Golden Circle, starts off with an action sequence that is wonderful and really got it's like, this movie's going to be awesome because if it's starting like this, it's going to be incredible. And then again, it just kind of got a little bit meh. All right, guys, that will do it for the topics that I picked out. Now I want to go to the topics and the issues that you guys have picked out and have sent in to me. Once again, don't forget, email me anytime at the John Campea Podcast at gmail.com. Send on in those questions. Maybe you'll see get on the show. And let's get started with the first question today. And the first question today comes to us from Richard Zepeda, who writes, I saw online that at least as far back as April DC announced they were doing their own streaming service. But I haven't really heard anything about it like Disney's streaming service. From what I read, shows like Young Justice and the New Titans will only be available there. Does anybody care, or is DC just too small of a fry compared to Disney? Well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And it's like, yeah, I've heard discussion going on about it. Disney, back in April, the announcement came out that they are launching their own streaming service for DC. It's a DC-specific streaming service. And one of the first couple of things that were announced is that Young Justice, that a lot of people like. I'm not a fan of Young Justice. I tried it out, didn't like it, but I know a lot of people do like it. So Young Justice was part of that. Some people were excited about that. This new Titans movie, or Teen Titans, whichever one it's going to be, is going to be coming out on that network. Presumably, they'll have DCEU movies put on there and things of that nature. So that's going on that DC streaming service. And another number of people are excited. I still don't know anything about pricing or when the actual official launch is, but it's supposed to be coming soon. And they may have announced it. I just haven't tracked it. Now, you're not wrong to say there seems to be more buzz over this Disney streaming channel. And that's true. There is more buzz. A lot more people are talking about the Disney one than the DC one. But that's not an indictment of like the public being more interested in Marvel than they are DC. Not at all. There's a huge difference between this DC streaming service and this Disney streaming service. And that huge, massive difference that you have to keep in mind is that this DC streaming service is just DC stuff. That's all it is. And we don't even know exactly, other than Young Justice and Teen Titans, we're not even exactly sure which DC stuff. We have some guesses, obviously, but we're not even sure which DC stuff. So it's only DC. And so DC is going after, Warner Brothers is going after a very specific market to try to get interested in this streaming service of theirs. And that's great. The Disney streaming service is an entirely different animal because it's not just Marvel and it's not just animated. It's everything Disney. All the classic Disney films, the Disney television, Lucasfilm, Pixar, Marvel, all of that stuff. It's a much bigger, a much more ambitious, if you will, enterprise for them to launch this DC thing. This DC channel is going to be a much, or I should say the Disney channel is going to be a much larger entity because it's designed to be that way. The Marvel one is very specific about its targets and its goals. It's going specifically after the DC audience only. And I think you would hear about equal buzz if this was a Marvel-only launch. I think the only reason you're hearing a lot more buzz and a lot more excitement about the Disney streaming service is because it's everything Disney. And that, again, Pixar, Lucasfilm, that means Star Wars, that means Toy Story, that means the Marvel films, that means the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and probably eventually the Netflix stuff will be coming over there too. Remember, they just said, when asked about if the Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Defenders shows are going to be staying on Netflix, the answer was they're going to be remaining on Netflix for now. So, I mean, eventually you got to assume that's going to go over too, whether that's in 2 years or 4 years or 5 years or whatever. So this is a much bigger scale thing. Disney needs more buzz than Warner Brothers does for this DC channel. So yes, you're right. People, there is a lot more buzz for the Disney one, but that's because the Disney one is a totally different thing than what the Warner Brothers one is. Warner Brothers one is just zeroing in on DC, and we don't even know which DC properties yet. So let's just not get carried away and just wait until we hear more from Warner Brothers and get a picture about what this DC service is going to be. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Jeannie. And Jeannie writes, "Hi, John. Your show brightens my day." Well, thank you so much, Jeannie. "Are you looking forward to The Disaster Artist? I can hardly wait. Showing The Room to unsuspecting friends is one of my favorite things. It's the best bad movie ever because it manages to find a new way to be appalling at least every 15 minutes. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what Jeannie's talking about, so there's this movie called The Room. And most of you, I'm sure, have heard about it. The Room is legendary. It is the best awful movie ever made. The best awful movie ever made. It is atrocious. I mean, it is the definition of a movie that's so horrendously bad, you have to watch it. And that's The Room. They still do monthly screenings every month here in Los Angeles of The Room, where people and audiences come and watch it together. It is the most horrendously terrible film ever made. So anyway, a while ago, a bunch of people, including James Franco, had this idea that they wanted to make a movie about that movie, about the making of The Room. And so we've now got this movie called The Disaster Artist, where James Franco, right here, is playing Tommy Wiseau, the guy who came up with and who wrote and directed and starred in, or at least wrote and directed and produced The Room. So he's playing Tommy Wiseau. His brother Dave Franco is in it. And the trailers just started coming out. And I think the trailers look amazing. Now, quite often when these types of movies comes out, I'll say, oh, you don't need to watch whatever it's based on. You don't need to just watch the movie. It'll be fine. I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you have not seen The Room, the original film, The Room, if you have not seen The Room, do it today. Watch it today. Definitely watch it before you watch The Disaster Artist. I haven't seen The Disaster Artist yet. I wasn't at TIFF. I wasn't at the Toronto International Film Festival. So I haven't seen it yet. But I strongly suspect that as an audience member, you will get a lot more out of that movie if you watch the original movie first. So I highly recommend it, because even if it wasn't for The Disaster Artist, I'd be saying you should be watching The Room. It's just, and don't watch it alone. Get a couple of buddies together. If you like alcohol, have a bunch of beers on hand. get a little tipsy, watch this movie. You're going to have an amazing time watching maybe the worst movie ever made. So yes, I'm super excited about The Disaster Artist. Cannot wait to see what James Franco does with it. He looks amazing in the trailer so far. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Hey, listen, guys, since that question just came in from one of my Patreon supporters, this is a good time for me to do my little commercial break where I do my absolutely shameless plug of my Patreon page. You know, my Patreon supporters, we get audio-only versions of both the John Campea Podcast and Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. We have exclusive Patreon-only podcasts that we do. We do, you know, team member live chats. We have an exclusive Facebook page. We have a lot going on in our Patreon community. If you would like to consider becoming one of the people that makes the John Campea YouTube channel possible, go to www.patreon.com/John Campea. I got a whole bunch of information there. Check it out, and maybe you will become one of the supporters of the channel. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. I'm just happy you're here watching the show with us. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Sparq. And Sparq writes, with the success of Wonder Woman and with hopes of a successful Captain Marvel, do you think the world is ready for female superheroes? Do you think Marvel will ever pull out their Jennifer's She-Hulk, Jane Foster's Thor, Shannon Carter's Captain America, and my favorite, RiRi's Ironheart? Well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, look, with Wonder Woman being the hit that it is, with everybody being excited about Captain Marvel and all that kind of stuff, is the world ready for more female hero-centric movies? I'll say yes, but I'm also going to add this asterisk. I think the world has been ready for a while. I think the world has been waiting for these movies. Like, whether you want to go as far back as Ridley, or, you know, we're just talking about Linda Hamilton's going to be in the new Terminator. Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor in the Terminator franchise. Whether you want to talk about more recent examples, things like Hunger Games. Hunger Games is one of the biggest movie franchises in the world, female hero led. I think the world has been ready for these movies. It's just that the studios needed to be ready to take that risk. Because it was a risk. Let's admit it, it was a bit of a risk. And so, you know, the first one out of the gate was the most iconic female superhero of all time, Wonder Woman. And now we've got Captain Marvel coming out with a Academy Award-winning actress, which looks amazing. That's going to be great too. So yeah, I think they're ready for it. But here's what I don't want, okay? This is what I do not want. I want female original superhero movies. Wonder Woman was always a woman. Captain Marvel, notwithstanding the DC version, Captain Marvel has always been a woman. What I do not want, and I do not think is a step forward for the movie industry, is just female versions of existing heroes. I do not want the female version of Iron Man. I do not want the female version of Thor. I do not want the female version of Captain America. I do not want the female version. I don't want the version. I don't want versions. There are lots of great female superhero characters out there who are not just piggybacking off a male thing because they don't need it. They don't need it. To me, just doing a female version of Thor is a step backwards. There are great original female superhero characters. And guess what, Warner Brothers and DC and Marvel? You can always create new ones. Create new superheroes that happen to start off being female without these reduxes of other heroes. To me, that's actually demeaning. To me, it's actually demeaning to the idea of, you know, strides that we've made in having female-centric movies. It becomes a little bit demeaning to say, well, we've got Iron Man. Everybody loves Iron Man. Okay, well, we can't possibly make a female character popular, so we'll have to call her the female Iron Man. That's demeaning. And it's backwards. And you don't need it. Wonder Woman has shown you don't need to just have a female version of another male hero. You're going to see that Captain Marvel will show you don't just need a female version of another existing hero. I would love to see them do more. I think the audience has shown that we're ready for more. I think the studios have shown now they're ready to do more. I don't want... I appreciate that a lot of people are fans of the female versions of existing male superheroes, and that's great. I just see it as a step backwards. I really want to see these great original hero films like your Wonder Woman, like Captain Marvel. God, I would love to see a Storm movie. I've always thought a Domino movie would be amazing, and not the one with Keira Knightley, like a legit comic book Domino movie. I think there are great female original superhero movies to do, and I don't think that this notion that, oh, female-led superhero movies need the crutch of just building on existing popular male superhero motifs. You don't need that crutch. The audience is ready for it. The studios are ready for it. Give us these original female hero stories, because I think they can be awesome and open up a whole new world of great storytelling in our comic book movies. So that's just my personal thought. That's just my personal belief. Maybe you have a different opinion. That's totally cool. Jump into the comments section and let me know your thoughts. All right, the final question now, before I go over to the live chat board that we're going to take, comes to us from Jack Spittle. And Jack Spittle writes, let's get straight to the question. Murder on the Orient Express has revealed its killer, and it's Fox Studios. I say this as the release date for Murder on the Orient Express is insane. What do you think will be the outcome? Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what Jack's talking about, first of all, there's this great looking movie coming out called Murder on the Orient Express with the great Kenneth Branagh. And I believe Kenneth Branagh, who is starring it, is also directing it, based on one of the great stories, Murder on the Orient Express. I'm so excited for this movie. It's got to be in my top 2 or 3 most anticipated movies left of the year that aren't a comic book or a Star Wars movie. It just looks amazing. Fantastic cast. Again, Kenneth Branagh's in there, so that always gets me going. Looks great. But what he's talking about is, why is he saying Fox Studios is the killer? Because of the release date. And here's what he's talking about. Let me bring this up here. As of right now, and it's going to be, the release date for Murder on the Orient Express, you can see it right here, is it's on Friday the 10th, okay? So it's coming out on November 10th. That's November. You can't see the month, but this is November. So it's coming out on Friday, November 10th, right? And he's not concerned about the opening date because of Daddy's Home 2. Daddy's Home 2 is an R-rated comedy. It's going to be a different audience that it's enlisting. What Jack is concerned about is if we go up just a little bit and go to the week before, there's this little movie opening up on November 3rd called Thor Ragnarok. So Murder on the Orient Express is opening up 1 week after Murder on the Orient Express. But the bad news doesn't stop there. If the week before we got Thor Ragnarok, and you know what's coming, guys, the following week, on Friday the 17th, you got this other little movie called Justice League. You've got Murder on the Orient Express planted firmly between Thor Ragnarok and Justice League, stuck between a rock and a hard place. And that's got a lot of people scratching their heads. Like, first of all, it's interesting that Justice League and Thor Ragnarok are opening just 2 weeks apart. And while that seems really close, I actually believe 2 weeks apart is an okay. That's the minimum, I think, distance that these big, huge blockbusters should open apart from each other. So I'm perfectly fine with them opening 2 weeks apart. But isn't opening Murder on the Orient Express right in between those two films, isn't that suicide? And I'm actually going to say no. I think Murder on the Orient Express will be fine, because this is an example, I believe, of counter-programming. It's much like this isn't a situation where Wonder Woman 2 and Star Wars Episode 9 opening on the same date. Those movies are going after extremely similar demographics. They're going after a lot of the same people, the vast majority of the same people, and that's dangerous. But remember, I think it was Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, a counter-programming move happened where they put the movie, that Tina Fey movie, Sisters, Amy Poehler and Tina Fey movie Sisters. They opened that on the same day, I believe. It might have been 1 or 2 weeks around it, but it was released extremely close to Star Wars The Force Awakens, which smashed all kinds of box office records, and it did fine. It did perfectly fine because it was counter-programming. I think Murder on the Orient Express, is going after a lot of people who are going to be interested in that one that aren't necessarily super excited about Thor Ragnarok or Justice League. Therefore, I think then opening in between those two movies is actually okay. I think it'll be fine. Now, it would be different if we were talking about like another, like say Kingsman The Golden Circle. Opening Kingsman The Golden Circle in between Thor Ragnarok and Justice League would have been suicide, because again, that's very similar demographics they're going after. But Murder on the Orient Express is a very different kind of movie. I think however good it does or however bad it does is how good or how bad it would have done even if Justice League and Thor Ragnarok weren't surrounding it. So I think it'll be fine. I really do. I don't think those two big monster movies are really going to affect it too much one way or the other. Okay, guys. Now with that stuff out of the way, gonna do what I said we were gonna do, which is I'm gonna go over to the chat board for a couple of minutes, take some of your live questions that you guys are sending in. Now, this is gonna be a little bit awkward because I'm gonna have to trying to be reading while doing video at the same time, so forgive me for any awkward moments. Let's see. Matthew Leach is writing, we're getting Wonder Woman and its sequel, Captain Marvel, Silver and Black, Batgirl, Gotham City Sirens, hopefully Birds of Prey, Supergirl, etc. Yeah, there's a lot of female superhero movies on plate. Let's remember this, though. We hear about a lot of comic book movies that are coming and then never get in front of the camera. Remember, they announced a Cyborg standalone movie, and it looks like that movie may not happen now. They've announced a Batgirl movie, but until that gets in front of cameras, I'm not going to hold my breath. They've announced Gotham City Sirens. Until that gets in front of cameras, because they've also announced a Joker and Harley Quinn movie. So until Gotham City Sirens gets in front of cameras, I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm not holding my breath on a Supergirl movie at all. I'm not holding my breath on Birds of Prey. I'm not holding my breath on Silver and Black, although Sony seems pretty intent on that. But until it's in front of cameras and rolling, I'm not going to hold my breath. But at least we've got a lot of them on deck. A lot of them are in the planning stages. And you got to think the odds are that at least a couple of these will get made. At least a couple of them. So you're right. We are entering into a new era of these types of films, which is always good. Let's see. Could there be, Mega Movies is asking, could there be a standalone Silver Surfer movie? I doubt it. I don't think it's, I think a Silver Surfer movie is too different of a character to do a standalone movie. I think you could do a movie with him definitely in a key role, but to just build a movie on Silver Surfer, I don't know that even Sony would want to do that. So I don't know. It's not impossible. And I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. I am just saying I would have my doubts that that would happen. Okay, let's see. Hey, John, what is the best comic book movie you've seen since Avengers? From Damian Pickett. I would have said, since Avengers, I would have said probably Civil War. And then I saw Logan. So I'm going to say Logan. Logan is the best comic book movie I've seen since Avengers. That's what you guys may have some different answers. That's cool. Somebody's asking, where did it go? I lost the name, but somebody's just asking me, hey, John, what sitcom that's on right now would you want to see made into a movie? None. I don't think sitcoms translate well into movies, to be honest with you. I just don't think that. I think sitcoms live perfectly on the small screen. I think that's where they're meant to be. I think that's the best place for them. Scarf writes, do you think the Ninjago movie deserves the 49% it has on Rotten Tomatoes? Let's put it this way. Whatever a movie gets on Rotten Tomatoes is what it deserves. I mean, like there's an old football coach, the old, I believe, who was coach of the Detroit Lions. No, it was Coach, why am I forgetting coach's name? Anyway, this coach, and he was a coach in a team, and they said his team was like 2-6 or something like that. And like some reporter asked him, are you guys really a 2-6 team? And the coach said this: you are what your record says you are. You can talk about losing close games, you can talk about this, but you are what your record says you are. And remember, 49%, that's simply Rotten Tomatoes saying that about half the critics liked Lego Ninjago movie, half the critics didn't. I'm one of the critics that I did. But I also said it's probably the worst of the Lego movies so far. And we were talking about the Lego movie and the Batman Lego movie. Those movies are fantastic. I thought Lego Ninjago was good. I enjoyed it. But I can totally see how other people wouldn't. I can totally see and understand why other people wouldn't. So yeah, I've got no problem with the 49% rating, because that's pretty much what I expected it to be. I thought, yeah, half the people will like this, half the people won't. And that's exactly what 49% means on Rotten Tomatoes, that half the critics liked it, half of them didn't. And that's exactly where I thought it would be. It's one of those movies. So I enjoyed it. I think a number of people will enjoy it, but I also think a number of people won't enjoy it. So I'm perfectly comfortable with that 49%. Antonio Larios writes, can you do your personal top 10 favorite movies of all time one of these days? I've done it like several times. I've done it many times, but sure, I'll do it again one of these days, maybe this weekend on the John Campea podcast. I will give my top 10 once again. It hasn't changed in a couple of years. So, you know, obviously movies like Star Wars are in there. I count Star Wars on my top 10 list as one film, by the way. New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi. I just say Star Wars. That's on there. Lawrence of Arabia's on there. Shawshank Redemption's on there. Godfather's on there. The Highlander's on there. I'll do my full list, but I have done it before several times. So I'll pull that one out so far. Jose M is asking, thoughts on The Orval so far? I have not seen episode 2. I will watch episode 2 today. I think, you know, when it aired, I was out at a screening. I didn't love the first one, though. I thought the pilot was okay at best. I thought it was a little bit confused as to what it's trying to be. Like, is it trying to be a spoof comedy, or is it trying to be a legitimate Star Trek movie or Star Trek show? And watching the pilot, I never felt like it made up its mind which one it was trying to be, because some stretches of the show, it felt like it was trying desperately to be a real Star Trek show. And then stretches of it, it felt like it was trying to be a spoof comedy, and it never really kind of knew which one of the two was trying to be. And it never found a balance for me. But I didn't hate it, and I said I would check out the next couple episodes. I just haven't had a chance to yet, but I will. All right, let's see. What's next here? What happened to a Ghost Rider movie? We had 2 Ghost Rider movies. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. There have been 2 Ghost Rider movies, directed by friends of mine, actually. John Morrison is writing, hey, John, what do you think about the Bjorn and McEnroe movie? I think it looks amazing. Shia LaBeouf is starring in it as John McEnroe. I think the trailers are out. I think the trailers look incredible. I have not seen the movie, but the trailers to me look incredible. I'm very excited about that movie. Cannot wait to see it, especially now that I've just seen Battle of the Sexes with the Billie Jean King. That's just got me more pumped now to see another tennis movie. And John McEnroe is probably one of the most colorful figures in the history of sports. So I think that movie could be really, really cool. Michael B writes, hey, John, if Justice League was going to be pushed back, shouldn't we have heard by now? Yes, we should have heard by now. If it's going to be pushed back. Now, remember, I've said I'd still put my money on it staying where it's at. But that being said, I still believe there's a possibility it's going to get pushed. I still believe there's a possibility it's going to get pushed. And if it does, I think it's good news. Because, you know, you guys know my position on this. I think if they push off that release date, that is Warner Brothers telling their audience, we are 100% committed to making the best movie possible, and getting this movie right is more important than hitting the release date. So I think it's good news if they do hit the release date. I think it's even better news if it doesn't hit the release date. So nobody, if they announce that they're moving the Justice League movie, nobody should panic, because it could be a very, very good thing that they're doing it. And if they keep the release date, that could also be a very good thing. So nobody panic. But yes, the closer we get to that, what date did we say it was? November 17th? The closer we get to that date of when it's supposed to release, the less likely they're going to push it. I'll say if they don't push this movie within the next 2 weeks, then I don't think they're going to push it at all. But I still believe there is a chance they're going to push it. I would just put my money on it not being pushed. But yes, you're absolutely correct. Every day that passes, lessens and lessens the chance that they're going to push it. I absolutely agree. Let's see. Last question of the day. Abudali Al-Rari writes, hey, John, I was hoping to know your thoughts about Fantastic Beasts 2. Well, I mean, I don't have a lot of thoughts to give. I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen any production. I haven't seen any promotion. I haven't seen anything other than I'm looking forward to it. I liked Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Like, it wasn't the next installment of the Harry Potter universe that I think a lot of people were hoping for. It wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be, but I thought it was quite good. I enjoyed it. I liked it. And I liked the ending of the film too. I won't spoil it in case some of you haven't seen it. But I like the ending of the film as well. I think it sets up the next upcoming movies. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Again, I don't have any other thoughts on it other than that because I haven't seen anything from it yet. But I'm looking forward to Fantastic Beasts 2. All right, guys, listen, before we wrap up, I have an announcement to make. A small one, just nothing major. Small announcement to make here. Okay, so the John Campea Podcast is something I actually started a long time ago as a little hobby thing. And I always just kind of kept the name the John Campea Podcast because for the longest time, primarily, this show was a podcast. As a matter of fact, for the longest time, this show was an audio-only podcast. Like, there was no video to this show. But now times have changed. I've left the corporate overlords that I used to work for. I now do this completely by myself, on my own. I relaunched my channel. And I continue doing and just calling it the John Campea Podcast, which you see below there. And I don't put out an audio-only version. There is no audio-only podcast of the show anymore except for my Patreon supporters. Once again, there's a little plug for my Patreon. Shameless plug, shameless plug. So I do put out audio-only versions of the shows for my Patreon audience, but not for the wide audience. Because that is detrimental to my YouTube channel and it actually hurts my YouTube channel. But anyway, I've had a number of people suggest to me, hey, John, maybe you should change the name of the John Campea Podcast. Because even though it's a video podcast, it's primarily a YouTube show now. Maybe you should change the name of the John Campea Podcast. So, 2 announcements. Announcement number 1. I got the help of my Patreon supporters to help make this decision. I went to them, I put up a poll, and overwhelmingly, close to 80% of my Patreon supporters said they backed a change of name to the John Campea Show. So it's a little bit less confusing. So starting Monday, the John Campea Podcast will have a name change, and it's now going to be called the John Campea Show. And what you guys have told me and what my Patreon supporters have told me is that that's just more reflective of what the show actually is. The audio-only versions of the John Campea Show and the audio-only versions of Star Wars Talk Tuesdays are still going to be available to my Patreon supporters, but I'm going to rename it to the John Campea Show. Also, you guys know that once I started my YouTube channel back up, I said, give me a few months to kind of tinker with things and move things around and kind of find a flow. I'm still experimenting. And one of the things I'm still experimenting with, because remember, it was just June, almost July. It was near the end of June that I started my YouTube channel back up. So I'm still like really fresh into it here. One of the things that I've played with and moved around is the start time of the John Campea Show. I've done it at 11 o'clock. I did it at 10 o'clock. I did it at 9 o'clock. I've been doing it at 8 o'clock for the last little while. The feedback I've been hearing from you guys is 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time might be a little bit early. So starting next week, not only will the John Campea Podcast be renamed to the John Campea Show, I'm going to do it at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So there's a bunch of people who aren't still in bed when I do the show. And again, I'm still tinkering and I'm still experimenting of when to do the show live. But next week, for about a week or two, I'm going to experiment with 10 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. So give you guys a few more hours of beauty sleep. And again, I'm doing all this based off of the recommendations you guys have sent to me. I listen to you guys. I will ultimately make the decisions that I think is best for the channel, but I am listening and you guys have given me some great suggestions and I'm going to try implementing those suggestions. So once again, starting Monday, the John Campea Podcast gets renamed to the John Campea Show, and the start time will be 10 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. So there you go. That's the big announcement. Woo! Didn't that blow your socks off? Okay, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks a lot for being here. Remember, take a second, click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to my John Campea YouTube channel. Listen, make sure, too, if you want to help out the channel, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment. And remember, in the comment section, we want debate and disagreement and discussion. But remember, we're all film fans together. We're brethren. We're brothers. We're film fans together. So let's be civil to each other when we're having our debates and disagreements. State your position passionately, but be kind to one another at the same time because we're all film fans. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of the John Campea Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm John Campea, and until the next time, bye-bye.